I feel like we are in a boat at the start line and your body is like a cold spring, just ready to go. Shall I give the signal?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you ready? Attention, go!
Ripples dance where the sunrise bleeds. Our journey flows where the river leads. Echoes of laughter fill the air. Chatterpot secrets everywhere.
Hello, welcome to the first episode of our podcast, the Dragon Chats Pod. Um, I'm one of your hosts, Kathy. I'm from Hong Kong, and I'm currently paddling the Sea Gods Hong Kong.
Hello, I'm Adrian in London. I've been paddling together with Kathy for about 6 months until she moved to Hong Kong. We actually met in London while she came for a session with my club. I am with Typhoon.
This podcast we're doing, I think the interesting about this podcast is, first of all, because when I met Adrian, I was called out for talking too much on the boat. Well, even it's paddling related, it really annoyed the coach. So, and even after I've moved to Hong Kong, I'm still talking to him about paddling day and night. So, one day we just decided, let's take this offline. Um, and yeah, that's how this is born.
It's true, we can chat about paddling for hours and hours and never run out of subjects. And I'm not a natural chatterbox, you are the one, but I'm competitive. And when you put me next to you, I'm not going to be out chatted.
Well, the other thing that I'm very competitive on that note as well, as you can see. And I think one of the reasons why I started chatting to him about paddling is because he's really good on the rower and it really annoys me. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start talking about paddling to this guy, and it's gotten to a point that it's unstoppable now.
That's actually one of the ideas that underpins our podcast. We've been discussing it in the stages of planning, and we are just benchmates. We inspire each other, we motivate each other, we push each other. I mean, equally, I can say, seeing you in the boat, how you reach, how you twist, it makes me more flexible. It makes me a lot more mobile, whereas I'm not necessarily the most mobile person on the boat.
I mean, it's good. Like, I think your benchmate is one of your closest competitors, like you say. You learn a lot from emulating the other person, if they're better than you. And it's also someone that encourages you on the boat when you feel like, oh, I can't do this. Um, Someone will tell like, you can do this, you've done this, and you'll keep going. And I feel like we are encouraging each other, and we want to be that benchmate that encourage you, encourage other people on this podcast as well, like regular people, not your coach, no one special.
Speaking of regular people, I want to say start right from the start. We are regular people. We are not experts. We are just regular Joes with full-time jobs, training in the meantime, and doing this podcast and our chatting about paddling online and offline. The good thing about it, though, what I find interesting is all that chat is not just wasting time. We are talking about, let's say, my favorite subject, leg drive. We could talk about that for hours and hours. And
That's true.
eventually we come up with some ideas or some tips that we can take on the water for the next time when we're out in a one or in Dragon Boat. And we hope that would be helpful to others listening in as well.
Yeah, that's true. And I think when we talk about that, it's gotten to the point we start Googling about things. And we came up with articles, we came up with like, at one point, we came up with this website that's covered in graphs and tables and physics. And I mean, it took me a while to understand it, if I'm honest. Didn't I haven't used my GCSEs like physics in ages. And
We have to
but
put
then
out a nerd alert there.
yeah, no, don't is here. And yeah, and it turns out that's what people say is true about paddling. It's a craft that you can never perfect. There's always room for getting better. You will never be the perfect paddler, and that's why we have endless things to talk about. And here we are.
Absolutely. And fear not, it's not just us talking. We have been planning for the last couple of weeks and reaching out to a number of amazing guests. Some of them are already confirmed, and we will hear from them in the next episodes. Some of them you may have seen already online. By the way, Kathy, if you want to repeat how our information gets on social media and where people can find us.
Right. So for the podcast, you can find us on Instagram, dragon.chatterpod. And you can also find us on YouTube and Spotify. But then Instagram is where you will get the newest updates and where we'll have insights of what to expect of our podcast in the near future. So if you want to stay up to date and know when to expect the next podcast, who's going to be the next guest, follow us on Instagram. And of course, follow, subscribe, and I'm not very
Follow, like, and subscribe.
follow, like, and subscribe, and share.
So let's get into the actual substance of it, because we've been talking about the planning, and we came up with a number of sections, a number of themes that we would like to cover. And some of them were quite fun to work with.
Yes. I think we have a lot of things that we feel like we can talk about paddling, apart from the fact that we've been like drilling on the techniques at all times, which is a hint for one will be technique series. But at the same time, we have other series that we really think would be interesting. For example, I'm in Hong Kong. Adrian's in London. So when I first moved here and I went paddling, that's the first thing I resorted to actually when I moved here. And I went paddling. I realised it's so different. There's so many things that's different over here. And so that will be another hint that we will have a series that's called East Meets West. And also other series that's focusing on how diverse the dragon boating community is, and many more, actually. And I think, apart from that, each episode that features a guest, we will have 3 segments that they will have to participate in. Promise no gunpoint held to their head. They voluntarily do this, I suppose. So we have 3 segments. One segment is called the Dragon Incubator. So that's essentially a paddle clinic. So if you want your strokes being analysed by expert guests and know how to get better at it, send us a video. Second segment, it's called Pass the Paddle. Each guest that's featured on each guest or each pair of guests, or if we get 5, however long, big it is, will be leaving a question for the next guest, and without knowing who they are. So it's quite exciting because you don't know what to expect when you come along, and it's not our fault really. It's nothing to do with me. It was him. And the third one, it's called the time trial. We're going to time them answering a series of quick fire questions, and that's how you will find out something interesting about our guest. And that's about it. You'll find out more. You will find out more if you stay with us.
But today, I wanted to focus more on our quest to become better paddlers, because when we sat down and discussed why do we want to do this, why do we talk about paddling all the time, essentially we want to get better. And there comes a time when your club, much as you love them, is probably limiting, and you start looking, how can I take my game to the next level? And next level, obviously, is the national squad.
Yeah, that's how I felt as well. I wanted to take my paddling to the next level, the national squad, and I think that's where the passion really stemmed. That's when I become really, really passionate about paddling, start drilling into these little, nitty-gritties of the techniques and how to become better. And I think this takes us to the core of today's episode. Of course, the episode's not just about introducing ourselves. It's about your benchmates that's about to try over the national squad, and we want you to come on this journey with us.
Do you know, the funny thing is, I wasn't necessarily focused on GB when I first joined Typhoon back in January. However, after the first two races, I felt this is what I want to do, and I want to do my best. And as I said, we've been lucky to have a few GB paddlers on the team, and information gets out very early. If you ask around, people are very happy to explain how it works, what you can do. And before I know it, in August, I signed up for BNTS, and I've taken on this journey.
BNTS stands for British National Training Squad.
Yes, it's a British National Training Squad.
Exactly. So I think I was on quite a similar place. So when I started, it's more like recreational. I want to meet more people, make new friends. Like most people, I bet most people start that way. No one wants to like go on and like, I'm gonna be on the national team like the day one. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's people out there, but then I started at recreational, and I don't know. One day, someone just randomly came up to me and said, "Have you ever considered trialing for GB, like Team Great Britain?" I'm like, "No, didn't think much about it actually." But then I feel like I planted a seed. Eventually, when you start to get better at paddling, I've done a few more races. Similarly, went internationally to do I went internationally and did a race in the Netherlands, and we did pretty well. And that's when I started like, you know what, this is nice. Maybe I should consider GB. But then I didn't know much about it. I didn't think much about it. And then one day I received a ping on my WhatsApp group with my crew back then in London, Raging Dragons. And again, on my crew, we had a few GB paddlers. And they sent out, hey, the premier team, the premier crew is doing a BNTS. Anyone's interested? And then that reminded me of what someone asked me. Did you want to trial for GB? I was like, but then I still had that worry. Something's holding me back as in, am I good enough for it? Like, because trialing for Team GB, essentially, it's something that sounds so far away. Being an elite athlete, it's almost scary. Because, I mean, I do sport, I'm reasonably fit, but being an elite athlete, you have to be incredibly fit, you have to be incredibly strong, and you have to, and being an athlete always feels like a full-time job to me, but I have a full-time job. I don't have the time. How is this going to work? And it sounded really scary back in the time.
Let me tell you my experience. You're absolutely right. We are fit, we are strong, relatively strong, but you're nowhere near international athlete strong. And that is a journey. If you started with the idea that it is a journey and nobody was born at the top, then you'll be fine. And then it's the question of commitment, because time is in short supply. You have work, you have family, friends, other commitments, and training takes a lot of time. In our case, it's gym, it's water training. Just to put it into perspective, when I started seriously training for the assessments in December, I was only going to the gym about twice a week and had one water session on Saturday with the club. After starting the BNTS journey, the GB journey, I started going to the gym 3 times a week, 2-3 water sessions. Now, as we're getting closer to the assessments, it's 6 times a week. That is combined cardio and strength, plus 2-3 water sessions, mostly in O1 these days, because you need to build up your strength and your skill in the O1.
Yeah. I think I was in a fairly similar boat. I think it was scary, like especially the idea of an O1. It was crazy. I've never been in an O1, and was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to trial for Team GB. What? I've never even sat in an O1. So it's a lot of preparation that went into just going to BNTS. So I think I knew I wanted to do BNTS back in September 2023. That was after nationals actually, and BNTS starts in November 2023. So I was like, okay, I don't think I'm even good enough to go for a training squad. Let's start training. So I start seriously lifting and follow the schedule. I think before that, I used to do some work in the weight room, but I kind of stopped because there's no really reason to do it until I realized, okay, I want to try out for Team GB. So I started going religiously more. And then I asked some of my teammates that was on the GB squad, can you take me out on an O1? And then they did. Actually, shout out to my teammate Mike. He used to be a GB paddler. And I remember the day I asked him about BNTS or GB. And I asked him, can you take me out on an O1 one day? He's like, I'm going out now. Do you want to come? It was after training. We just had 2 hours of training on a Sunday morning. I was like, yeah, sure. And then we just hopped on an O1, and that's how it really started. Like it felt real from that moment onwards.
Yes, I can say it's almost addictive. Once you start it, you want to do it properly. You want to give it your 100%, and that means you have the determination to at least start on this journey. But as you say, and as I was saying, it's not easy. There's a lot of things to consider. A lot of people come to BNTS camps but do not register for trials because it becomes apparent the amount of time and money you have to invest in this. Because let's put it very bluntly, there is very little or no funding for Dragon Boat. So if you're selected, if you go to the World Championships, you have to pay for your way, you have to pay for your kit. And some people just can't afford that. Not to mention the preparations ahead of the actual competition. You have to train together as a squad. So you're looking at a number of training camps over the weekend, sometimes 2 days over the weekend. It means travel around the country. It means time away from family or other things.
Yeah. Oh, I think I'm in a luckier camp now because I moved to Hong Kong and I'm lucky enough to be eligible to paddle for Hong Kong, Team Hong Kong. So the lucky thing about being here is we do have a small amount of sponsorship that we receive from the government for world championships and bigger games, of course. Like if it's more smaller game, of course we do. So as far as I'm concerned, your travels will be covered. But at the same time, it's quite limited because it's not an Olympic sport. So what interesting is like the amount of sponsorship you're getting from the government really dictates if your country is sending out small boat or a big or standard boat, which
Yes.
it's I mean, we're luckier than most other countries who doesn't receive anything, like for example GB. And actually some athletes have been lucky enough. They've done really well in the Asian Games, which is or the World Championship, and they did qualify for like receiving a small wage from the Sports Institute of Hong Kong. So yeah.
And if anyone is wondering where do you start, I would say number one, keep an ear out on the social media. Some of the sections of GB, at least I can tell you that, are very present on social media, and you will hear there first. Also, if you have GB paddlers in your club, they will be very happy to share everything they know about it. If you want to know exactly what's involved, things
to
change
BNTS.
year on year. Go to BNTS, exactly, because things change year on year. And I can guarantee the coaches, when you go to your first BNTS, will explain very clearly what is it, what's in it, what sort of training you can expect, and what you can expect from the assessments, because the assessments change year on year as well. Plus, they're different between, say, Premier and Senior A and Senior B. They have different criteria, different selection.
But you're going to your selection very soon, isn't it?
I am going to the selection. So the selection takes place on the first weekend in December. It's spread over 2 days. I've been preparing for it, so I'm pretty confident. Actually, I say that you have to be confident, because if you're not confident, then why would you put yourself through it?
Yeah, I guess it's true, and I think this is one of the things that really it's the confidence in paddling that really shaped that really changed after BNTS. I mean, I haven't been. I mean, I'm one of those people who didn't go trial last year. When I did my BNTS, and then I did it for Premier League. Premier League. I'm not talking about football. I did it for the Premier Crew. I didn't go to trial, but then I still like. I think trying to trial for Team GB or being close, being in the training squad, being pushed to your limits, training at a level that is much more competitive level, really changed you as a paddler. So one big thing when you spoke about confidence, one big thing when you talk about confidence, it reminds me what BNTS did to me. It really improved my paddling confidence. As in, well, I mean, it actually tears you down first, and it builds you back up. So I guess most people would go trial for a GB squad, at least for me, because I was pretty okay on a club level. And you're like, okay, I think I can do this. And you went there, and you see all the best paddlers from across the country, north to south, east to west, and you're like, holy crap. Like, they are really strong. And some of them probably they have been on the squad for.
Exactly.
They have been on Team GB before.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the kind of not exercises, but the kind of drills you do with the coaches, from national team coaches, they are much, much more harder than what you would do on a club level.
Absolutely.
That is the secret, what they will do. Go to BNTS to find out. Or your own national training squad if you're from other parts of the world. So that's the part that I felt like torn down. But then after that, it just pushes you a bit more in the gym. It pushes you more on the water as well. You know what your shortfalls are, your shortcomings are, and you know what to work on. And eventually, that is what makes you a better paddler, and you will have a little bit more confidence in actually like perfecting in paddling and perfecting the craft.
Absolutely. And just to take the elementary thing, when you go to a national training squad, okay, whether it's in GB or in another country, you will be with some old national team squad members. Each squad has its own technique. Forget what you learned at your club. You think you're a good paddler at your club. It doesn't matter. You will have to adapt and embrace that style of the squad. And as you say, they will just break you down and build you up again into the stroke, the style they want to achieve. And the feeling of being in that fast boat is absolutely incredible. I time my runs on my sports watch, and on the second BNTS, I believe, when we did some speed drills, we reached some speeds I'd never seen in our club boat, honestly, ever.
Really?
Yes.
Do you remember that? Can you tell us numbers?
About 15 and a half, 16 kilometers an hour.
Wow. I think on a club boat, like, it's usually like 14 max.
It's
14,
14 is a good day. It's a good day training at the club. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's, speaking of speed on the boat, it reminds me of this one instance. I was on the training, and then I was like, okay, do you race start and you start building speed? And towards the end of the race start, I felt weightlessness on that boat. I was like, woof.
Yes.
I'm like, where's this going? And the only time I felt that was on, okay, I'm not going to compare a drag boat to a roller coaster, but it was on a car that's speeding.
Yeah. I
So
totally
yeah,
understand that.
yeah, I know. It really blows your mind when you go to elite level paddling.
So how are you doing now for your training in ahead of Team Hong Kong?
So Team Hong Kong, I think the selection is not as close to it's not in December. It's not as
Okay.
in the near future. As far as concerned, I think they don't select the squad until March um, for Germany. The World Championship in Germany in June 2025, so it doesn't happen until March. Um, so I have just actually restarted with my training routine, I would say. So um, I did Ravenna Club Crew Worlds in August, September. In September, so after that, I took a little bit of a break, a little bit longer than I intended it to be. And I've recently just restarted having a very scheduled training, and it is quite intense, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
I forgot how it felt like. It's 3 days in the gym, 3 days of running, and then on the water or on erg because it's off season. So it's like, I remember that's one thing I told Adrian. I was like, okay, I looked at my training schedule. I've got more than 7 sessions a week. Like, how am I going to fit that in?
2 a day.
I mean, and you have to rest. Like, you need to have a rest day. So I'm like,
Well, I guess you can
how does
do a
that
strength and
work?
erg on the same day.
Yeah, you can, I suppose. Well, it depends. Like, you can't do like a speed erg work on the day you're doing like
I tell you what
strength
I
or
do
like.
because I have to do it because of my work schedule. I do combine workouts like this. I just take 15 minutes between strength and erg, get some gel, some carbohydrate gel while I'm lifting. So by the time I go to the erg, I do have some fuel in the muscle, hopefully.
But are you
I'm very
serious?
serious.
Oh hell no! Because like for example, I mean, how are you gonna go on an erg when you have jelly legs?
That's the problem. So on leg day, it is really a struggle. I might need more than 15 minutes break.
Okay, maybe you should consider like doing it before work and after work, like two times in the gym.
Yeah, I don't necessarily fancy going to the gym twice on the same day, especially after a long shift at work or late in the evening. I'd rather do it early in the morning. And you know from my
Mm.
social media posts, I've had days in the gym at 3 in the morning.
Yeah, yeah, like speaking of that, I was like, how is that possible? Because 3 a.m. is when I'm still chatting to this guy in Hong Kong. I'm still awake. I didn't wake up. I'm still awake. I haven't gone to sleep yet.
Exactly, exactly. And you text me with another article or some video from a Chinese social media site.
Yeah, I mean that's the perk because I read and write Chinese, so I can find him videos I usually wouldn't have access to, and it's like this is from the Chinese national team. Look at his stroke, and then he'd be like, "Okay, I remember this once. I sent you a video. You're like, it's all in Chinese. I don't know how to access this." I'm like, "Whoops."
We figured it out in the end, and yeah, it's interesting. It's what we do.
I mean, at one point, you start sending me PDF files. Like, I was like, wait what? PDF files?
That is serious nerd.
Yeah, but I'm actually like still reading that article you
I
sent
know
me, and
it's very dense.
it's just 3 pages, but I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know what it's talking about.
yes. So there's a lot coming up in the next couple of weeks. Apart from the trials for me in December, I will be traveling very soon to Malaysia. We have an international race in Penang, and then back, and then trials.
How long do you have between? when you land in London and your trial?
About a week, about a week. So I should be fine in terms of jet lag and everything else.
And
Um,
you will
my
be
problem,
training.
exactly, exactly. So my problem is keeping up the training. So normal people go and look on the internet for things to do, good restaurants, good bars. I was looking for 24-hour gyms in Kuala Lumpur, in Penang, in Singapore, because I'm going there too. So that's the life of a would-be national squad athlete.
I mean, I with that dedication, I mean that's what you should expect from a national level athlete. Whoever, I mean, I wish someone told me that when I signed up for this.
That's it for today. Don't forget to get in touch with us, follow us, like and subscribe on YouTube, on social media, on Instagram. Kath is the queen of Instagram. She can tell you a lot more about the surprises and the little nuggets she wants to drop on there.
They're surprises, so I'm not going to tell anyone.
That's a good point. I don't even know why I mentioned that.
So, I mean, if anyone have any feedbacks or they have questions, or if you want to drop us a video for Paddle Clinic for experts to have a look at it, be in touch. Social media, all sorts. Or even if you want to email us, dragon.chatsupport@gmail.com.
Thank you very much for watching and see you next time.
See you next time.
Ripples dance where the sunrise bleeds. Our journey flows where the river leads. Echoes of laughter fill the air. Chatterbox secrets everywhere.